Governor, you just sent a tweet that was pretty harsh. You said to Donald Trump, you aren't just a loser, you're a liar and a whiner. John McCain is a hero, over and out.
Yeah, I just find it remarkable that Medal of Honor recipients, or like Leo Thorsness or John McCain, who were in the Hanoi Hilton as prisoners of war, aren't viewed as American heroes, because that's what they are. And it's a long list of things that Donald Trump says that disparages people, large groups of people, individuals like John McCain. I find it remarkable that as a candidate for president, he would think that that's evidence that he's a strong person. He's not.
When you started this campaign, you said, or even before, you said that you would really only like to do it if it could be a joyful campaign.
Yeah.
And now we are the day before the New Hampshire primary, and you're calling an opponent a loser, a whiner, and a liar.
Well, he is a whiner, and I'm defending the honor of people that I really respect. And I think that's more than appropriate. I do this with joy in my heart because I do believe that this country is the most extraordinary country on the face of the earth. But I'm going to be, I'm a joyful warrior. There's a difference between just sitting back and watching someone try to hijack a party that I believe will allow people to rise up again.
I get that, but I guess if you have a few free moments, which I'm sure you don't have these days, do you sit back and say, wow, what is happening? I mean, how did we get to the point where I'm feeling like I have to use these words in a tweet as a candidate for president of the United States?
I don't know. I don't think about it that much in reflection because we're in the heat of battle right now, and we're all big boys. We all can take it. I get a lot of incoming from Donald Trump. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes, you do.
I get more than my fair share, and I'm the only one taking him on. Everybody else runs away from the
bully.
bully.
Why do you think that is?
Because they don't want to be attacked by the bully. And there's no other explanation. If someone is trying to hijack your party, believes until recently that higher taxes is better than reforming the tax code, believes a single payer system works well in other countries, believes in is pro-choice, is anti-Second Amendment. This is not that far in his past, all of those things, and now he's on the vanguard of conservative cause. As a conservative, I find that offensive.
On the stump, he has been talking a little bit more about defense spending.
Yeah.
Said that he doesn't want to increase spending, but he does want to save money by cutting waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh, sure. I mean, there is waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. We've laid out a detailed plan how to fix procurement, how to have fewer civilians in the Department of Defense, but you've got to increase spending if you're serious about restoring America's presence in the world. We have gutted the military by the sequester, and as president, I would do the opposite of what Donald Trump is talking about. And frankly, John Kasich also has this belief that you can, save money so much that you can't, that on a net basis you don't have to increase defense spending. It's not. I don't think that's an honest evaluation of the needs of the military right now.
He's obviously got a populist message and trying to strike a chord with populists out there who
Donald
think
Trump?
who think that that the government is just spending too much money needlessly, and perhaps the Defense Department and the military is
and
one
I
of
agree.
those.
And we've laid out a detailed plan on how to reform it, or the Veterans Administration with outrageous management that doesn't provide care for the veterans, even though there's been massive increases in spending. I've done this, though. Unlike Donald Trump, I've actually reduced the government when I was governor of the state of Florida. Reduced the workforce, reduced spending as it related to people's income.
Let's talk about Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
How do you just feel about kind of how things have been going over the past 24, 48 hours? Kind of watching him. He's taking a lot of incoming now.
He is. Do
you think it's deserved?
Well, when you repeat something over and over again, that's basically a canned phrase, and it validates a belief that you're not ready to be president. This started, remember, when he himself struggled about what his accomplishments have been. And the accomplishments that his campaign offered up, supporting a bill that became law where he didn't vote for it, taking credit for the elimination of a risk corridor inside of Obamacare that he didn't sponsor, and the passage of one law with Jeanne Shaheen as a sponsor that I'm sure is a good bill. That's it. That's all that you can point to. Whereas in my case, I could say, hey, I was governor of a state when we had 8 hurricanes and 4 tropical storms. No one blamed the state of Florida for its response. That we created the most ambitious school choice programs, that we took on lifetime employment protections for government workers. I've got a story to tell, and he doesn't, and that's the difference. So he kind of validated the weakness of his campaign. Now, having said that, what I feel uncomfortable about is that he's a great guy, and he's my friend, and I admire him, and he can speak.
You just don't think he's ready to be president?
I think I'm more ready to be president. Part of this is comparing and contrasting. I don't feel good when a friend is getting beaten up. I don't feel good about it at all.
Speaking of that, Chris Christie just moments ago said of Marco Rubio, he said, the lights are bright on you, and when that happens, you either shine or you melt, and you can't afford to have somebody melting who's president of the United States. Do you think that that is possible? I mean, what he's saying is that Marco Rubio isn't ready for prime time. Do you agree?
I do, when you compare him to governors that had to make tough decisions. That's the point. It's not that he's a bad person, to the contrary. Look, one of the evidence in Florida of this is that every speaker before him and every speaker after him is supporting my campaign.